This lesson's a continuation of index laws and in particular negative indices. So in your journal, please copy down the next set of index laws below the ones that you had previously. Now, if I give you, say, 2 to the power of 3, you would tell me that's equal to 8. And 2 squared, it's 4, and so on. Let me write down the other ones here. 2 to the 0, that's 1. Now, look at the exponents. We have 3, 2, 1, 0. The next one would be 2 to the minus 1. Okay. Now, let's see, do we notice a pattern from the 8 to the 4, 4 to the 2, 2 to 1? In each case, we're dividing by 2. Well, let's follow that pattern then. If we did 1 divided by 2, we get a half. All right, next one. Again, we divide half by 2, we get 4. And here, once again, we get 1 over 8. Now, this 4, I could write it as 2 squared. And the 8, how can I write the 8? 2 cubed. Ah, look at that. That 3 appears down there. That 2 appears down there. So if we had to write a rule for a to the minus n, what would it be? It would be 1 over a to the power of n. And what if n were 1? Like in this case, a to the minus 1. Just like here. That would be 1 over a. But what would this be? 1 over a to the minus n. Well, think of it like this then. You have 1 divided by a to the power of minus n. But how do we divide a fraction again? Well, we do. Sorry, let me just write this one here. That is equal to 1 there. So how do we divide a fraction? Well, we change the division into a multiplication sign and we swap the numerator with the denominator. So after all of that, what are we left with there? We're left with a to the power of n. So that's our next one. We have a to the power of n. And now with the next one here we have a over b to the minus 1. But before we do this one, I would like to bring your attention again to this one here. Let's say I gave you the number, let's make it 6. 6 to the minus 1. That would be equal to 1 over 6. Okay. Now, do you know what we call the numbers 6 and 1 over 6? They have a special name, and they are the reciprocal of one another. Now, what's special about the reciprocal? What would you do? What would you get if you did 6 times 1 over 6? What's that equal to? That's equal to the number 1. Okay. Now, also, if you have a look at the number 6, how would you write the number 6 as a fraction? That is 6 over 1. So notice what's happening to the numerator and denominator. They are swapping. So what do you reckon we would get if I did 2/3 to the minus 1? If I follow the steps from up there, if I use the same procedure, I would get 3 halves. And now, by the way, what's 2/3 times 3 halves? You know what that's equal to? That's equal to 1. So after all of that, what's our rule going to be here? It's simply going to be b over a. We're swapping the numerator and denominator. And the last one to put in our journal is a over b to the power of negative n. And this one, we're going to write down 2 things after it. So our first expression that we're going to write down is, first of all, we swap the numerator and the denominator. That negative n becomes positive n. And now we use our previous rule, which is that one there, which simply becomes b to the n over a to the n. So please finish copying down all of those index laws in your journal, and once you're finished, please continue with this video. Okay, next set of questions. We have to write these in simplest form, without brackets, and also without negative indices. Now in the first question here, this one, we don't have brackets to worry about, but we do have a negative index. Now can you please not do what some of my students have done in the past, and they say, oh, I need to write it without a negative index. Easy, I'm going to write it without a negative index. And that is what they write. They write that. Kind of like if I had given you this, and they simply say, oh, that's equal to this. Please, big error, don't do that. Now, let's get back to our question. Now, a to the minus n, what's that? That's equal to 1 over a to the n. Same process here, x to the minus 10, 1 over x to the power of 10. Have we met both conditions? Yes, there's no bracket, and also, we don't have any negative indices anymore. Negative index in this case, so all good. Next one, we have 5 over y to the negative 3. Now, how do we do this one again? 1 over a to the minus n. That's equal to a to the n. Same thing here. That 5 stays where it is, followed by y to the positive 3. And that's all there is to that question. Now notice this, by the way. See how there was a negative exponent in the denominator? It went up there as a positive exponent in the numerator. Have a look at this one, please. How do we do this one? Well, that b squared, we don't have to worry about the b squared. The b squared stays where it is. The a has a negative exponent, and since it's in the numerator, it's going to go down here in the denominator. But instead of negative 3, it becomes positive 3. Let's now deal with this c. If for the c to have a positive exponent, it has to go up here in the numerator. Becomes c to the positive 1. Now, do we need to write positive 1? No, we don't. Let's get rid of that positive 1. Is that question fully answered? No. C and B, they're not in alphabetical order. So let's put B first, followed by C. Take your time to look at the next one, please. What do we do first whenever we have brackets? Can we simplify what's inside the brackets first? Oh, yes, we can. Well, let's do this then. We have 5 x to the 100 minus 400. What's that? 100 minus 400. That is negative 300 to the power of negative 3. Let's continue with this. Next step. Let's deal with the negative 3 now. That one there. Now, if you rush this, you might do this. 5 x to the, what's negative 300 times negative 3? That is 900. And if you rush, you write that down. People forget to also raise that one. What would that be? To the minus 3. Now, have we met both conditions? Have we written it without brackets? Yes, we have. But there's still a negative index there. So let's fix this. Almost done, almost done, almost done. The x to the 900 will now be in the numerator, followed by 5 to the 3. Look, and depending how the question is asked, if it said express your answers in index form, that's how you'd leave it. We can go an extra step. We could write it as x to the 900 over, what's 5 cubed? That's 125. Okay, please ignore that bit there. And last one. Take your time to look at this one, because this is not a nice one to look at. And if you want, please pause the video and have a go at doing it by yourself. Well, here we go. A lot of things going on here. First of all, let's deal with this 10 over to this part here. That's simply 5. 5. Next part. Oops. Next bit. We have a to the 30 over a 28. That would be a to the power of 2. Now, I'm going to write down the steps for this one, because if we're going to make a mistake, it's probably with a b. So let me write down b to the minus 5 minus negative 10. Followed by C. Now C, 2 times 8 is 16. And then with that 20, we do minus 20. And now we square it. Let's keep going. We have 5a squared. Now we have minus 5. This becomes a plus. So negative 5 plus 10 is 5. And we have 16 minus 20. That is negative 4 squared. And now let's square everything. We have 5 squared. A squared squared is a to the 4. B5 squared is we multiply them, we get 10. Now we have c to the negative 8. One last step. We can do 25 here instead of the 5 squared. A to the 4, b to the 10. C has a negative exponent, goes down there like that. And one more question to go and we're done. This one. Another one that's not nice at all. So take your time, feel free to pause it, and when you're ready, we'll go through it. Okay, first of all, can we simplify the first bracket? And it doesn't look like we can. Next one, can we simplify this one? We can't. Now, let's worry about these negative indices first. Let's go and write it, but without a negative index. So we would have 4 f to the 6, f to the 6, yeah, x to the 5 over d to the power of 4, divided by, that x is going to go down in the denominator, so we have this. And now what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the brackets in each one of these two parts. So let's go. We have 4 squared. 6 times 2 is 12, so f to the 12. 5 times 2 is 10, over 4 times 2 is 8, divided by, we have 3 to the power of 3. 5 times 3 is 15, over d to the power of 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Let's keep going. Now 4 squared is 16. Now to divide a fraction, we change that into a times and we swap the numerator and denominator. 3 cubed. That's 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, f to the 15. Okay, and now we're up to the last step now. Now, can we simplify 16 over 27? No, we can't. So let's write it as 16 over 27. Let's focus on these f's here. We have f to the 12 up in the numerator, but there's f to the 15 in the denominator. Now if I did 12 minus 15, that would give me negative 3. And that's going to be in the denominator as a positive 3. So another way to think of it is, we do 15 minus 12, that's 3, but the f is going to be in the denominator. So we put f to the power of 3. Now, let's look at these d's. We have d to the 8 and d to the 3. 8 minus 3 is 5. Let me just write it here. We had here, what was it again? F to the 3, was it? Yes. And now let's look at the x's. We have x to the 10 times x to the 6. We add the exponent, and that is x to the 16. Now, once again, I'll recommend that you check this with your calculator whenever you're doing these questions, just to see if you got them right or not. And with these questions here that I'd like you to do all of those advanced questions, including 12, but don't do 16 just yet. For question 16, I'll make a new video for you. And these are the questions I'd like you to do, please.